and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
I'm Chad McCanna.
And Chad, I think it's time to reveal the truth.
Yeah, we have by this point, Monday after the Microsoft press conference, the press event, we are officially unembargoed.
Oh, yes, and we get to let the world know that we've been filthy liars the past couple of weeks.
We have not. We've been legally obligated. I wouldn't say liars. We've been omitters of something very spectacular that happened to the both of us earlier on in May.
Yes.
We were spirited out of the country over to England. Hyle, you landed in London. I landed in Birmingham, and within 24 hours of that, we were hobnobbing with Rare employees and actually both got to visit the Rare studio and play Sea of Thieves.
Yes, so that happened to us. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, that's 2 podcasts in the can.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit and explain. Well, you might remember a couple weeks ago, I believe it was episode 421, we had to push the episode back couple days. We recorded late. It was released a day late, and we chalked that up to technical difficulties. Well, the technical difficulty was we were not in the country.
Yes, it was. I believe the specific phrasing I used was I was having difficulty getting an internet signal strong enough to stream the podcast, which was true.
It's hard to do when you're over the Atlantic. Yeah.
Yes.
So we were actually flying back the Wednesday of. We would not be able to record the podcast that night. So that's that explanation. And we apologize for the half-truths. We had to do what we had to do.
Right.
So everybody might remember, maybe you don't, but Chad was one of the 6 lucky winners for the Sea of Thieves Play It First contest. And that was where Rare offered the chance to come to their studio and spend a couple days over there and to play, obviously, Sea of Thieves before anybody else outside of, the studio had a chance to. So, Chad was one of the 6 winners, and we'll go
alongside. We met some fantastic people on this trip. The other 5 winners were Rodrigo, Olivier, Jeff, Jackie, and who else was on the winning group? Because there was Sebastian, there was Mike, there was Alex. It was Alex with the dance video. Yes.
Yes.
So there were essentially 6 of us there from the Sea of Thieves contest, and then Rare, being extraordinarily generous as they always are, invited 6 additional people from the Rare community, essentially.
Yeah. So basically, they invited me, and it was really hard. Everybody was congratulating Chad on his opportunity to go over, and I had to keep my mouth shut because I knew I was going to, which I don't know if that made me seem very, very open-hearted and not bitter in the slightest. But
I wonder what the tone you would have taken would have been had I been the only person on the DK Vine contingent going.
I don't think you would have found out because my wrist would have been slit far before anybody had a chance to ask me. No, it was me. It was Dan from Killer Instinct Central, who we met at E3 last year.
Yep.
There was Steve McCorkle, who has been on the Kongversation twice now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think he's officially a friend of the show.
Yes, officially a FOSS or FOTUS.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a very clean acronym.
Yes, rolls off the tongue. Steve, he is off of Rare Gamer. Yeah, obviously
he of the top 5 lists.
Yes, he was on our Microsoft episode last E3, so go back and listen.
Along with Amir Abdullahi, who he co-runs Killer Instinct Central with the aforementioned Dan, and he's also in charge of Rare Minion, and possibly a new site actually, it's not a new site. It's a recontextualization of Rare Minion, but it's a fantastic title. So check out Rare Thief. actually, for more of Amir's collectibles and I would assume Sea of Thieves news and fandom.
Yeah, I was going to say Amir is mostly known for being the biggest rare merchandise collector in the world. He's got just a staggering collection, and beyond any of his fan site duties, I think that's what he gains him the most notoriety among the larger rare fan base. There was let's see, Mike and Sebastian
from Pirate Port Radio.
Yes, so they're kind of newbies to the Rare fan community. Started a Sea of Thieves, basically podcast website last year, and they've rocketed to the top.
In addition to that podcast, Sebastian himself does some really fantastic examinations of every bit of media that comes out on his own YouTube channel under the pseudonym Paladin Topaz.
Yeah, last E3 we were going to do our own summary of the Sea of Thieves trailer, and we just couldn't be bothered after Sebastian's because it was just like it was too thorough. It was like, oh, okay, well, we don't have anything to add.
Sebastian did one, Amir did one, and I was going to do one that was like kind of a piss take where I would, draw insane conspiratorial theories from the very obvious gamer tags, like who could Grog Males be? What's this? But ultimately it was way too much effort for way too little payoff. So
again, more clever than funny.
It's not even clever, really. I'll do the more clever than funny, but if I can't even tick one of those two boxes, I'll leave it. I'll leave it to the more earnest folks like Amir and Sebastian.
That's actually on your business card. It's not even clever, really. Chad McCanna. So are we forgetting anybody? There
was so Sebastian, he was underage for the purposes of the trip. So he was actually accompanied by his dad Scott, who I'll get into it later in the show, but having the experience and sort of watching Scott's parallel experience through this, and it's weird. I don't know his last name, so it's weird calling him Scott because he is a captain in the Canadian military, and I want to call him.
Really?
I want to call him Captain whatever, but I can't recall his last name. Anyway, Scott, I apologize for not using your proper honorific, but seeing Scott sort of, the gears start to turn as he understood more and more about game development and the passion behind Rare fandom was really cool to watch.
Yeah, from my perspective, it was kind of fun because I don't think my parents would have understood what the hell was happening. And Scott was kind of just thrown into this world, and it was awesome that he agreed to accompany Sebastian and to have Scott then just kind of slowly be immersed in our bizarre world. Was really, really cool to see. That was kind of one of the perverse pleasures I took during the trip. And there's also Jeff's wife, Mandy.
Yeah, she was there as well, and it was so cool to meet her. I mean, she basically stole the show in Jeff's contest entries, so it was only fair, I think, that she come along. But for the extra folks, of course, they had to pay their own way, but we didn't expect that they would get to participate in virtually everything else on the tour. So it was they got to come to Rare too, and that was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Mandy was part of his video, so it was only right. So it was really nice to see Rare extend that invitation and kind of bring them both in. So that was the crew we were running with, but okay, so let's talk about what we want to do is basically run everybody through the incredible essentially week we had. It's a little bit less than a week, but whatever.
It's the title of the show is a misnomer, but because Hyle and I, after 17 years of doing this, are creatures of habit, we wanted some parallelism with last year's E3 series, our week with Rare. So this is our week at Rare.
Yeah, I would actually recommend, if you're new to the Kongversation, if you've come on in the last few months or whatever, go back, listen to last E3 set of episodes, starting with E3 2015 Microsoft, and then E3 2015 our week with Rare. That kind of sets the stage for us first meeting people in person from Rare, developing kind of rapport with them, or at the very least, not a restraining order for once.
Mm-hmm.
And
I loved the absence of restraining orders.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll get into that. But, no, listen to those because that will help set the stage for some of the because I'm sure we'll be talking in shorthand a little bit. We'll try to keep it as open and encompassing for newbies as we can.
And like I don't want to. It'll feel a little weird and name droppy to for example just use the name Adam instead of Adam Park. But we're gonna be doing a little of that. So apologies in advance. We're not trying to pull rank or anything as fans. It's just we've now sort of developed a relationship with these people, which is insane to think of if you consider the history of Rare as a very secretive company.
Right. Yes. And and we really just want to, I don't know, kind of invite everybody on the trip with us, go back in time and experience just a little bit of the surreal magic I think we both felt.
And so, we should probably also preface it by saying, despite the fact that we're going to try and explain as much as possible about the experience, because it really is something that I think everyone who's either a diehard Rare fan or is sort of on the fence right now, seeing how Sea of Thieves plays out, I really want everyone to hear it out and hear what the experience was like. Despite that, there's still some stuff that we saw that we can't really talk about.
So let's be upfront right now.
Yeah.
We can't talk about some of the details from Sea of Thieves that we were privy to. We're never going to talk about that unless Rare gives the go-ahead, so don't ask us.
But also you'll hear us being a little cagey about some things. We're not trying to play coy. It's just, for the benefit of Sea of Thieves, Rare wants to control the doling out of information about the title. So we definitely need to respect that and let them control their own messaging.
Yes, we are under an NDA. So we
there's that too. I don't want to get sued.
So basically, we are at the whims of the Microsoft Corporation, the lovely people at Microsoft. And
by the way, the lovely people at Microsoft who flew us out of the country to visit Rare
on their dime. Yes,
on their dime,
flew us out and put us up in a hotel. We did not have to sleep in the gutter. Thank you. Thank you, the good people at Microsoft.
Yeah. Although we did drive through Twycross, I'm sure they have some lovely gutters.
We could have just slept under a sheep. There would be plenty of them.
Just stack a few sheep up in a corner. Nice and warm.
We're both essentially from the American South, Chad. We're quite familiar with sleeping with sheep.
Cows for me.
Really?
Have you been to Texas?
Oh yes, you got steers down there. That's true.
Yep. The only two things from Texas. Okay.
What year is it?
What year is it, Stanley Kubrick?
So Chad, you were obviously you flew out of JFK, right?
Yes, I flew. Yeah, the JFK International Airport. Thankfully, it was either that or the Newark Airport in New Jersey, which is where I'll be headed tomorrow at time of recording for E3. Thankfully they were able to get me a flight straight out of the city. So on Friday for me,
Friday, May 20th.
May 20th. Thank you. I packed up the morning before work. I went to work until about 3:00 in the afternoon, and then went straight from the office to the airport. And when I got there, I actually my first point of contact with anyone on the trip, Amir, the aforementioned, actually had, who you'll also know, by the way, I Falcon is his online handle. So if you know of that, just associate that in your mind with Amir. So I met Amir first thing. He and I were like texting back and forth, like, "Hey, I'm at the airport. I'm through security," and I was waiting at the gate by that point. And it was like, "Oh my god!" And I had met him at E3, previously. We both did. So it was.
Yes,
cool.
I was there too, Chad. Thank you.
I met him, Hyle. He's my friend. No, that it was like. Seeing Amir, giving him a bro hug, and like we were both just like vibrating with excitement that, oh my god, we're about to get on a plane across the Atlantic Ocean. That's when it all came real, and then after that, Dan Duncan, who, fortuitously is also kind of Amir's collaborator, so it was cool. They got to fly together. He met us. He got through security a few minutes after Amir. And so, yeah, we were just the three of us sitting there waiting to get on the plane. And thankfully, we had been communicating ahead of time, and we shifted our seats around because there were enough availabilities so we could all sit on the same row.
Oh, you asshole. I did not have that experience flying out.
Oh, no. Okay. So that was us getting on the plane. It was just, it was so, we were just, as I said, we were just like balls of excitement. We were, comparing notes, talking about the last year, just trying to catch up because we travel in social media circles, but it's different when you're there in person with someone. There's a shorthand that you sort of fall back into, as you and I have when we meet up in person.
Yeah, it's quite different, and you have more adrenaline coursing through your veins when you actually are in front of the person you have been talking with online.
Yeah. So then we got on the plane, and before I guess we're gonna do sort of like a parallel structure on this one until we finally join up.
Just like our favorite bird.
That's right. I wonder how he did in this year's Hall of Fame. So we got on the plane, and thankfully it was a very underpopulated flight. So there were 3 full rows of 3 seats around us, and one of the flight attendants came by and said, "Hey, you guys can spread out if you want to." So
my God!
Oh, hell yeah! And yeah, so Dan, Amir, and I each got our own full row of seats for the flight.
Oh, God damn. Well, are you sure the rapture didn't occur? Like it was like Left Behind where the plane was just suddenly empty? Like God took everybody but Rare fans?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Kirk Cameron was there too.
Oh, well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a big fan of Underworld.
So yeah, we got on the flight, spread out a bit. Amir was sitting in the row ahead of me. Dan was across the aisle a few rows back. So Amir kind of time-shared between the two of us on the flight, and we all attempted to get sleep. I was slugging back wine on the plane to try and just shut my brain off, but it did not work. And I think maybe I got like an hour of sleep. And then I wasn't even hungover, and wine usually destroys me in that regard.
Really?
It was like my body was metabolizing the fructose. It was amazing. Wow.
I didn't think you got hungover, Chad.
After all these years, you think I'm just immune?
Yeah, I thought that's just what your blood is made of.
No. You just learn to power through the hangover.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and as audiences learn to do with both sequels.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? Okay, because I've literally not thought about those movies in years.
Neither have audiences.
But The Hangover 3 was the epic conclusion to the Wolfpack trilogy, Chad.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Wolfpack trilogy that they were formulating the entire time.
Because if we call it a trilogy, it must have been the plan.
So what was your experience of getting all the way? Yeah, tangent. All the way to the airport. What were your first points of contact? All of that.
Okay, well, I flew by myself because I flew out of Washington Dulles. So I didn't have any Rare buddies to tag along with me. I went solo. So I got there pretty early just because flying out of DC on a Friday, the airport usually is just a mess. So I got there pretty early in the afternoon. My flight, I think, was like 5 or something. Mm-hmm. So I had about 4 hours to kill in the terminal, which is fine. I like getting through security. I like just the feeling of, okay, now there's nothing left to do but fly.
Do you enjoy the environment that is the beyond security part of the airport?
A little bit. There's something about it that is enticing to me, especially in international flights, because it's like a shopping mall but slightly more cultured.
Yeah, everything. Okay, can you explain to me what duty free really means? Because as far as I understand, it means it's immune from taxes of any specific nation, but they still jack up the price to the point where the taxes are completely offset. Is that what it's supposed to mean?
I've never tangled with duty free. I thought it was like medication for IBS. So I really don't know what it. Yeah, I was like, it's one of those things where I should know this by now as a 32-year-old man, and I haven't ever bothered to look it up or research it. So,
oh well, come to the conversation for airport information.
No, but I don't know. I like there's a Starbucks. You can get a nice coffee. You can little unwind in a seat.
Ooh, Starbucks. Dulles is fancy.
Oh, I know, right? The Wi-Fi is terrible, but oh yeah, and I was sitting in the airport, and all the ukulele news was breaking, so I had to multitask and
all the televisions in the airport switched over from CNN to a YouTube feed of the trailer.
No, it was Donald Trump was speaking to the NRA that day, and so that was on the TV, and I was just like, Christ, I'm just gonna get on my laptop and put in my headphones and block this out. But yeah, the ukulele news broke, so I had to get the news out on DK Vine, and I also had to corral staff members without telling them where I was. Yeah, we should point that out too. We have not been able to tell our volunteer staff, what
Nick,
exactly,
Matt, and Cameron.
Yeah, what exactly we've been up to. So
yeah,
it's been kind of hard. Especially when we were out of the country and DK Vine had to keep running. So all this ukulele news breaks. So, hey, can somebody do this news? I can't, but I will not tell you why I can't.
Yeah, and there's even that thing, I'm sure you were going through it too, where you were trying to, obviously our brains are fixated on Rare, and that's all we want to talk about, but there's all this ukulele news as well. So I kept going through this struggle of obviously, the ukulele trailer was brilliant. We would normally have coverage on that, but I was like, do I go really far with the ukulele to throw people off the scent, or will people read into that? And it was this whole I was spiraling in my brain, is it too much? Is it obvious? What's going? And ultimately, I just decided to try and turn that part of my brain off and tweet about Rare, tweet about Yuka as I normally do, and be snarky about Nintendo, all the standards.
Right, yeah. It's important to layer your enthusiasm with anti-Nintendo bias.
Right, I've learned that from you, Hyle.
Yeah, I think I was a little. You were more you were really fretty about the NDA. I was more chill about it in that I didn't think anybody suspected anything. So
I just didn't. I was really wary, because we've been doing this for a while. But there are a lot of the people on the trip with us are relatively new to the Rare fan community and the heightened personal mental watch that you have to be on under an NDA. So I was not only fretting for myself, but also I didn't want anyone else to, in their enthusiasm inadvertently say something. So I was thankfully nothing happened. Everything went swimmingly, but I was just, it's what I do for a living is I'm constantly aware of everything that's going on under my purview, and so just my brain naturally does that, and I was just vicariously nervous for everyone, but it was all perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm in my day job. I'm a professional Matthew McConaughey impersonator. So I basically was laid back. I was chill about the whole thing. Well, whatever happens. I'm
surprised you didn't bring the Donkey Konga bongos with you in that.
So anyway, yeah, I finally got on my flight around 5 something. Unfortunately, I did not have a leisurely flying experience. Oh. My flight was at capacity, so I was stuck in the middle aisle, in the middle seat of the middle aisle between two very, very overweight men.
Did either of them vomit on you, as happened on your flight home from last year's E3?
No. Fortunately, there was no vomiting, but the guy to my left apparently had a fear of flying, so he took a bunch of sleeping pills and passed out on me for most of the flight. So I had to basically cross my arms because they were both using both armrests. They would not afford me any armrests.
Oh, they were man-spreading.
Yes, yeah. And so I was kind of just hugging myself the entire trip, and my back was killing me because it was just basically contorting yourself in order not to offend the the overweight gods next to me who demanded all their space.
But despite all of that, you were still hurtling in a metal tube over an ocean directly towards Rare.
Right. No, so there was a lot of excitement. I didn't mind too much, obviously, and the drinking helped on the flight. Whereas you partaked in wine, I decided to get into the spirit of the event and drink rum. And
spirited indeed.
They offered Bacardi on the flight, not my rum of choice, but when you're hurtling through a metal tube,
Bacardi it's a clear rum, isn't it?
Yes, I like the brown rums. I like the good pirate rum. But whatever, it's rum. I'm gonna drink it, and it's gonna get me buzzed because I am more of a lightweight than you are in the drinking department. So I only need about 2, and I'm feeling good. And I was feeling good. After a while, I couldn't even tell how much pain I was in from the contortion. And plus, I was flying United, and they had the in-seat television, and they had a wide selection of programming. I watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, good for you. How's that holding up after all these years?
Last season wasn't so great, but this was from a couple seasons ago. This was the episode Charlie Work, which I really liked.
Is that the one where he mashes all the rats?
It's the one where the health department is coming to inspect them, and basically they fake it, but they try to do like one long extended shot of him.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
They had Spectre. Like I watched Spectre. They did The Force Awakens. They had all 7 Star Wars movies. So
this is definitely why people tuned into this podcast.
No, hey, it was the highlight of my flight. So I was now I flew into Heathrow, and this is just they coordinated the flights the best they could for everybody. So you flew straight to Birmingham, which is where our hotel was.
Yes.
I flew to Heathrow in London, and I landed first at the Heathrow bunch. I landed about 6 a.m.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I guess nobody shows up at Heathrow to work until 6:30. So we were waiting for. When you come into the UK, you have to go through, I don't know, Border Patrol. And,
Customs.
Well, this wasn't customs. This was just Border Patrol. You have to state what you're doing in the country,
Oh, I thought that was customs.
No,
okay.
Customs was something else. Customs, I walked right through because I had nothing to declare, thankfully.
Okay, all right. I don't know the term. I went through the same thing, of course. And any country you enter or exit, you have to go through this. But So did you sail through pretty smoothly?
Yeah, the guy was pretty friendly. He asked me business or pleasure, and I froze, and I was like, well, kind of both. And he did not like that answer.
Are you a pimp?
Yeah, right. No, it's like, well, I'm representing a website, so I guess that's my business, but it's also kind of a pleasure trip and he was just like, get to the fucking point. And there's a video game studio up north that they invited me to
north
to come play their new game. Yeah, because I was trying not to reveal too much because I didn't know what the NDA said about Border Patrol.
Yeah, I know. Later on, Emma clarified to all of us that because some of us ran into some legitimate hiccups, like when Dan, Amir, and I went through.
Can we talk about Dan?
Dan was grilled. The guy was like, "You don't look like you should be here." It's like, what the hell? And Dan's just like this unassuming guy where he was wearing a leather jacket. Did that throw him off? Like,
yeah, he was threatening like the Fonz.
Yeah, he was the Fonz of the trip. If anyone, he should have got through on cool cred.
He just hits the side of Border Patrol and they turn off. And he walks
hey, let's go to Rare, Picky Tuscadero. That's a hard one. No, so Dan.
This is why people listen to this show, for all those timely references.
Right, we are old. At least Picky Tuscadero. At least we watched Happy Days on Nick at Night and not in the original era. We're not that old.
Right.
But no, Emma later clarified that we could have told Border Patrol or Customs what we were doing. That's not necessarily a violation of the NDA, because we were all like really wary about not telling anyone, even if it could potentially block us from entering the country.
Yeah. Yeah, so poor Dan, like you said, he got grilled like Royston, but fortunately he got through. We all got through, fortunately.
Like Royston Berry.
Yes, Royston Berry got blown up completely.
Well, we never saw where he wound up, so yeah.
Well, I guess he was incinerated. I just assume he was incinerated.
Oh, okay. Just his body completely carbonized. He's like Mulder's sister. He's Starlight now.
So anyway, at Heathrow, Emma, who, by the way, we keep saying Emma. We should probably explain who Emma is.
Emma is the most thoroughly competent and incredibly accommodating person that I have ever worked with on a professional or personal capacity. Emma Bridle is one of the community managers at Rare, and she there's like a 5-hour difference for me, like an 8-hour difference for a lot of the people on the trip. I think even Rodrigo had something like a 10 or 11-hour difference.
Rodrigo from Mexico City, so yeah.
Yes, who developed that really awesome contest entry that was fully 3D animated.
Yeah.
More on Rodrigo later because he was on our
he was on our team, yeah.
Yeah. But he was in our crew. But no, right. Despite all of the time zone insanity, all of that, Emma was seemingly around at any given moment to help us through the flight process, meeting each other, answering questions about the trip. Like, think about all the coordination that has to go down for 12 people scattered across the world.
Well, 14, technically.
14, yeah, considering Mandy and Scott. For all of us to arrive without incident in the same hotel on a single day. And it was all Emma.
I thought for sure one of us would have been lost over the Atlantic, or...
That Bermuda Triangle claims a lot of prisoners.
It does. So Emma, we just, we're in awe of what she was able to pull. So, Emma, if you're listening, thank you again.
Yeah. Emma, seriously, you deserve more props than anyone could possibly ever give you I think
I told Craig Duncan she deserved a raise, so I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, I'll second that one, Craig. If you're listening,
I don't care. Just keep giving her raises on a weekly basis. It's fine. It's fine
until Rare goes bankrupt. Just right. give Emma all the money,
and then it's our fault that Rare went under.
Craig, why did you listen to us? We give terrible advice.
So anyway, Emma told me that since I'd be arriving first, that they sent a driver down for the Heathrow crew, and they sent a driver to you. But I think it's impressive that they sent a driver 2 hours down to pick us up in London, and so I was arriving first. I had to wait for the rest of the Heathrow crew, which was Steve, Jackie, Olivier, and Sebastian and his dad at the time. And I got there way before everybody else. So I met the driver. He had my name on a board. It was
ooh.
I know. I felt important.
Wow. So our driver had Dan's name, and then he had a piece of paper kind of listing all of our names in a much smaller font. So
I'm sorry. That's
Dan. Dan was the one who got the photo in front of the car with the sign.
Oh, okay. I think I was the only one because I came in by myself, so I was the only one who got my name. I think he just gave up, and for everybody else, he just had a sign that said Rare.
Wow. How about that secrecy?
I know, right? Oh, my guy was awesome. My driver was awesome. He had a Rare pin on his suit.
Ooh, like the E3 one from last year?
Yeah, the ones that we absconded with.
We were given them. We didn't steal them.
It's more fun if we say we stole them, Chad.
Oh, okay.
There's a coffee shop. I forget the name of it. It's a widely known chain in the UK, but something like Nero or something. So we sat at the coffee shop waiting for everybody else to come. I got my first caffeinated beverage in the UK. Very exciting for me.
This is your first time outside the country, isn't it?
No, first time to the UK though. So
I thought you got a passport for this trip.
I had to get a new passport because my old passport expired. Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's been a while, but So yeah, I'm like a heroin addict, like making notes of the first time I tried my drug in each country. So I took a picture of my, and we'll be sharing pictures, by the way, now that we can, of the trip. But I took a picture
probably after E3 because there's a lot going on as you're listening to this.
We don't want to drown. We don't want to bury the lead that is E3 or bury the lead that is our trip. Whatever the lead actually is, we don't want to bury it. So
right.
But yeah, I took a picture of my first. It was a iced latte. Very exciting. And
That's great.
My driver is awesome because we just had a lot of time to kill, and we made awkward small talk. And he kept asking me questions about Rare, and I was like, "What?" He was like, "So you're gonna play Sea of Thieves, right?" Yeah.
Whoa. So did that like we when we were sort of interacting with our driver at first, he didn't have a Rare pin. We just thought he was some guy that they hired, and later we would all find out that these drivers are apparently very commonly used by everyone at Rare to get to and from airports and just drive them around as is needed. And at one point, as we were just driving from the Birmingham airport to the hotel, the Malmaison, he just casually dropped the name. It's like, oh yeah, so I think I'll be one of the ones taking you to Rare. And I was like, what? Well, we didn't know what. It's like he said Rare. He said Rare. Is that okay? Can we acknowledge any of this?
Yeah, he asked me, he was like, so did you get Rare Replay? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, so what do you actually do? Why are you here? And
justify your existence.
I said, oh, I'm the co-editor of the website DK Vine. And he was like, is that like a Vine thing? Like the website Vine? I was like, no, we actually had it first. No, that Rare used to make Donkey Kong games. It's like, oh yeah, Donkey Kong Country. Oh yeah. So he knew, like, this guy knew like a lot of stuff. So it was kind of cool and also surreal. Here I am very jet lagged, and it's like 6 a.m. in the morning over there. 1 a.m. my local time.
Mm-hmm. And you keep a bizarre sleep schedule anyway.
I do. The funny thing is, and I'm sure this will be coming up again, but the funny thing is, going over to the UK actually set me straight in that I was actually going to bed at normal times. So I think I'm just an Anglophile by nature, and that explains my insomnia.
Let's call it that.
Okay, so anyway, so it was just a long, excruciating wait at this coffee shop, and I didn't want to buy anything more, and so I was like, I probably want to sleep when I get back to the hotel, so I don't want to overly caffeinate. Mm-hmm. But so I was just like twiddling my thumbs, and then he had to go meet everybody else, and so he just left me alone for about an hour. And so I'm just sitting here like, yep, okay. But yeah.
That must have been nice, though, to have just a little bit of time. Like, I wouldn't give up my experience, spending all that flight and everything with Amir and Dan for the world, but just to sort of let everything sink in. Like,
oh yeah,
I traveled internationally. I'm here. I'm bleary-eyed and half awake, drinking an iced latte. But this trying to unpack everything and prepare yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I was like making a little mental notes of like, should I find an ATM? Should I go get some pounds in my pocket? And I was like, I don't want to walk away. What if he comes back? So I eventually found an ATM.
Yeah,
it
would wind up being like Home Alone 8, Lost in London.
Luckily, I had Peter McAllister's credit cards on me.
The father.
And then I run into Donald Trump. So anyway.
God, he was in that movie, wasn't he?
He was, along with Rob Schneider. Pick your poison.
That is the worst possible Sophie's Choice. Somehow worse than the actual Sophie's Choice.
I think he's found his VP, though. I think he's found his pick. So anyway, and then eventually, it was funny because everybody came like in a clump. Then I think Olivier was the last to show up, but Steve, Jackie, Sebastian, and Scott, the Canadians of the bunch.
Right.
Olivier is French Canadian, but I think he arrived separately.
Well, technically Canadian. I mean, Quebec has not been separated.
No. I know, but I'm just separating him in my mind because he arrived on a separate flight.
I didn't realize he was from Canada. I thought he was from France, and so I was wondering why. Like, it was weird that everyone was on the same flight, seemingly across the Atlantic. Like, wait, did you connect from Paris to Montreal? What's going on?
Everybody was North American. That was the weirdest part. You was like, you guys would have saved money had you picked somebody from the UK. But No, they arrived and Steve was already, he was already humming like Rare songs, like he was doing the Banjo-Kazooie theme. He was like whistling it. I was like, really, Steve? Way to remain conspicuous. Or, but yeah.
Well, hey, in Steve's defense, the driver did have a placard that said Rare.
It did. I think it got him jazzed up. But I had a awful experience driving up from London.
You and Olivier both.
Yes. So
we heard tale of this. So hey, hang on, let me jump back over to mine, and then we'll get on yours.
This is like Lost. You know, we've got like parallel stories happening here. We have to do the flash sideways over to you.
That's right. So we're all dead on my part of it. We wound up driving.
I'll have to tell my fiance not to listen to this episode because we're rewatching it, and no, she's seen it for the first time, so no spoilers.
No spoilers. So Dan, Amir, and I wound up at the multicultural church, and I'm so sorry. Michelle, stop listening. No, so. Basically, we got in the car. It was only maybe like a 35-40 minute drive from the Birmingham International Airport to Malmaison, which was this really swanky hotel in the middle of Birmingham. And
Swanky was there. He greeted us.
He did, yeah.
It's nice to see he's still working with Rare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there was a quiz component, but thankfully we're all fairly well versed, and we got through.
We had to throw balls at crocodile targets.
It was very strange, but I appreciate the branding. We were all really jet lagged and working on about an hour of sleep and not really knowing what's going on, but thankfully, the driver deposited us off at the hotel. We attempted to check in. The rooms weren't quite ready yet because at this point it was like 8 a.m. And no hotel kicks out the previous night's guests at 8 a.m. So they took our bags. They said, "Oh, if you want breakfast, go upstairs." So we went up to the cafe. Not really. I feel bad. By the way, I haven't apologized yet to Emma or to whoever does the accounting at Rare, but I think they probably charged an extra prepared for meal for all three of us onto my room number because we got up there and they asked for the room number and I said, we haven't officially checked in yet. I think we get breakfast tomorrow. And they were like, "Oh yeah, just give us the number. Come on in." And no check ever came. So I think that got charged to my room. I'm sorry. When I checked out, I said, "Yeah, there might be an extra charge," and they said, "No, it's taken care of." So I was willing to throw pounds at them, but thanks, Microsoft. That was really awesome of you guys.
Did any of the cleaning staff take any of your minibar stuff, and did you get the bill for it?
No. Did that happen to you?
Yeah, somebody ate an oat bar.
An oat bar?
Yeah.
Weird. Huh.
But luckily, the guy didn't charge me because I said, I swear I never touched the stuff.
I don't even like oats.
Yeah, seriously. I'm not Wilford Brimley.
Yeah. Oats are the number one prevention for diabetes.
He did oatmeal commercials. That's the reference I was making.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was making a diabetes reference.
I know. Parallel
Steven,
references.
there's a raccoon in my attic, Steven. So, is Wilford Brimley still alive?
I don't think the diabetes have gotten him yet.
Okay, good. I like Wilford Brimley as curmudgeonly as he seems to be. He's one of those ones that I just kind of want to perpetually be out there as a grizzled old negator of anything positive.
Yeah, we lost Ernest Borgnine, so we got to hold on to somebody.
Yeah, and he's got those handlebar mustache that we can hold on to.
What are we doing, Chad?
I don't know. Let's talk about Rare. So. This is just what happens when we talk. Usually we try and keep these podcasts relatively focused, and this one is like so... It was such a stream of consciousness blur that we're going to meander a bit.
It's full of anecdotes. If you want the hard Sea of Thieves discussion, we have YouTube videos for that.
Yes. That is your antidote to our anecdotes. So that's the video thing. Check our YouTube for that one, which hopefully by this point that will also be posted. But yeah, so we ate breakfast. We all got the full English.
My God!
It was way too filling for the state of mind that we were in, but we felt like it was necessary at that point. And then we went outside in the really dreary, drizzling Birmingham weather.
Well, it was such a dreary day in general. Like the drive up from London was you were just like, oh my God, this is depressing as hell.
Yeah, England rolled out its gray carpet for us.
Yeah.
But no, we thankfully it all cleared up on the days we were actually at Rare, so that was fine. But so we were just kind of we had deposited our bags. I think Dan needed to get some money, so we sort of jumped around whatever establishments that could exchange money at that early hour. I think we wound up like going to 2 or 3 places and finally found one. We went to a big convenience store. I got some caffeine. I think the other guys did as well. And then we just started looking around. We found this really cool historical site that we would revisit the next day on our scavenger hunt. And then we'll get to that later. And yeah, just kind of generally wandered around and then finally made our way back, sort of halfway exhausted out of our minds. And we were all able to get into our rooms at about 11:30, which is earlier than I expected. But at that point, nobody else had arrived yet. So I basically crashed by the time you guys all arrived.
God, you had such a better experience. Like the whole first day was better.
Oh,
for you.
man.
From the flight to the trip over to the hotel. All right, so here's what I did on my trip up from London. So the driver takes us to his it's like a van. It's like a BMW. Like I don't know what you call it, but it's it's a nice vehicle. But the problem is half the seats were reversed. So essentially, and there was what, like 6 of us. So we filed in, and there was 3 of us sat backwards. Mm-hmm. So I am now facing out the back window, and we start driving, and it's what nobody tells you is apparently English roads are a lot twistier and turnier and windier than American roads.
Yeah, less wide as well.
Yes. So I'm jet lagged as hell already. Already in a surreal experience. Haven't gotten really any sleep for quite a long time at this point. And I am twisting and turning, and everything is reversed. I'm seeing everything go by me the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And also the windows are cracked because his air conditioning wasn't working or something, and so the fumes from the highway are just pouring in.
Yeah, we never really had to get on a highway. It was pretty much like not side streets, but it was none of them were like the giant industrial thoroughfares that you tangled with.
Yeah. So and I mean there was like lovely countryside along the way, but this was 2 hours, a 2-hour drive in this condition, and about an hour into it, I'm not feeling that hot. I'm starting to wonder, like, am I gonna lose it? Am I gonna throw up? I'm like, you can't throw up. This that would be mortifying. That would be humiliating to throw up. Rare invites you to come to the UK, and the first thing you do is vomit in the chauffeured vehicle. So
yeah. So who all was in there with you? Paint the picture. Who was accompanying you in this enclosed space?
Steve, Jackie, Sebastian, and Scott, and Olivier.
Okay.
So, and Scott was sitting up front with the driver because he's a captain. And
I also sat up front. It was sort of like Amir and Dan just got into the back seat, and there was nowhere else to sit. So I was like, okay, I'll take shotgun.
Yeah, it's something we noticed playing Sea of Thieves. You immediately go for the wheel.
I didn't go for the wheel. I asked if anyone else wanted the wheel, and nobody answered, so I went for it. Okay, I don't assume a leadership position. I just fill a vacuum.
No, I'm the guy who plugs the holes. That's my job.
Yeah, and you did that very well.
Hey, lads.
Not a euphemism, actually. We'll get to that in our Sea of Thieves discussion.
So anyway, and people are starting to notice that Steve was paying attention to the way I'm reacting, because apparently I'm ghostly white at this point, and he's like, "Hyle, are you all right, man?" And I'm like, I'm just feeling a little nauseous. Just need to shut my.
And we knew Steve from last year's E3, so there was a kind of a casual relationship there.
Friend of the show.
Yes.
So Fatis So I'm closing my eyes, trying to block out the distorting scenery, and unfortunately, that doesn't really help. So Steve was like, I was like, I think it's just because I'm reversed. I think it's because I'm sitting backwards. It's not helping. It's like, do you want to switch? I'm like, no, I'm fine, man. I'm fine, man. So about 90 minutes into the trip, I'm like, hey Steve, we're gonna need to switch. So we switch. I'm sitting front right finally. Still not helping. I'm too far gone at this point. I can feel it coming. I'm debating in my head, oh, we can't have much longer now. Can I make it to the hotel? Can I make it to the sidewalk at least? Nope. It's coming. It's coming. It's a freight train at this point. It's like, does anybody have a bag? Does anybody have a bag?
Oh God.
So Steve gets his backpack. I'm like, Steve, I'm not going to vomit in your backpack. And he was like, no, I've got a bag in my backpack. I was like, oh, okay. And it was a Subway bag. So, a lot of jokes are going through my head. Can I make a Jared joke right now?
No.
No.
It would be inappropriate for the car ride and for this podcast.
I was asking in the context during the car ride. I was like, I have to throw up, but I really want to make a Jared from Subway reference. No. I better throw up first.
Yeah, that would probably have gone over about as well coming out of your mouth as the vomit.
So he grabs me the Subway bag, and for those of you who aren't familiar, Subway bags, they're for long sandwiches, so they tend to be long and narrow. So I get the Subway bag up to my mouth.
Such a gross visual.
And I swear, like, all I have to do is put it up to my mouth, and it just comes naturally. I retch, and it's just like
you're I didn't need the sound. You're a vegetarian, so probably the smell of an Italian BMT is what put you over the top.
I'm not sure what sandwich Steve got, but fortunately, anything that could have helped the process come along as quickly as it could was a benefit. I fill the bag up maybe a quarter of the way. And now, in my defense, this is probably the best thing to ever grace a Subway bag. So I'm not feeling too bad about myself.
Dig on the Subway company.
This episode not brought to you by Subway.
That's right.
We
refuse to eat fresh.
And I'm feeling a little bit better at that point. I'm like, you have that immediate relief after vomiting where, okay, well, that was rough, but it needed to happen. Unfortunately, we still have about 20 minutes of car ride, so I'm like, I have this bag of vomit.
Chuck it out the window.
No. I put it by my feet.
Okay. You tied it off, I hope?
No. Just in case I needed it. Just in case I needed it. And fortunately, I needed it some more. At this point, Olivier hasn't said much. He's been going through the same process I was. He was also one of the reverse seaters, along with, I believe, Jackie. And, Olivier is not doing so hot. And we're in Birmingham at this point. We're circling around trying to get to the hotel. And for whatever reason, he could not pull up in front of the hotel. He had to, circle around 3 times. And Olivier, he's like, Olivier was going to lose it. So Steve hands him the Subway bag filled with my vomit. And Olivier's like, no. and the driver can pull off because he's not on the highway. He's like, do you need me to pull over? And Olivier's like, yes. So Olivier gets out and just hurls on the sidewalk like a champ. And I'm feeling good about myself because I'm not the only one at this point. I'm like, okay, it wasn't just me. I'm not some sort of weirdo, seasick, wannabe pirate. No, it was just the conditions of our ride naturally, led us to pop like that.
Right.
So Olivier
it's nice that you had some solidarity in purging.
Right. And it bonded Olivier and I. Like, it was just like, it was like going into the trenches in war together. I was like, all right, man, I like you. We're going to get along. And Olivier and I really got along on the rest of the trip. But
and Jackie, despite sitting backwards, has a much stronger constitution than the both of you.
I think Jackie was able to sleep a little bit. Maybe that helped.
That's amazing.
But but at this point, I'm feeling up for another round. So I grab the bag and I just it's unending at this point, Chad. It's a virtual waterfall of my own bile. And
wow, that's a waterfall I do not want to go chasing.
Right. I did handle it with a lot of TLC though.
In that you ripped off Paul McCartney?
Yeah. It's true, they did. The bag is more than halfway full at this point. I filled up this Subway bag more than halfway with my own vomit. Fortunately, we're at the hotel at this point, and so I stagger out and I find a bin and I just chuck my vomit in there. And at this point, it's we got an early check-in and we could check in at this point. So I fucking collapse. I get up to my room. Oh, well, the rooms. We should talk about the rooms.
As I said, swanky hotel, swanky rooms. Confusing, though.
Confusing, and I didn't know if this was... I think this was just Americans out of water here, because we... I did not know how to turn on the lights. I've never...
It was like a weird arcane puzzle game.
Yes.
Have you ever done one of those escape the room games?
Yeah, Conker's Pocket Tales.
No, like the ones where you go in and they're kind of themed. Like I did one in it was near Chinatown in Manhattan that was a Jekyll and Hyde themed one. But you go in as a group, you try and solve puzzles and get out. That's what this felt like.
Really? Yeah. No. I can't say.
To turn on the lights. Do you remember that mechanism?
Yeah. You had to put your hotel key card into the wall socket.
Yeah. And then all of it, but you do that to like activate the circuit in the room, and only then can you go around and turn on the switches.
Right. Fortunately, I had been turning the switches on and off for about 5 minutes at that point, and I had luckily had some of them in the on position. So when I did that and the lights sprang on, I was like, because I was like freaking out. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm in a foreign country. I am hungover, sick. And I don't know how to even work the goddamn lights.
Yeah. And at least they speak English, so you could potentially go downstairs and ask someone, but then you'd be embarrassed that you can't turn on the light switch.
So I get the lights on and I collapse.
Yeah.
I may have set an alarm. I don't even remember. I just slept, and I was like a sweaty mess at that point. And pale, just completely disheveled, and... the beds were pretty comfortable though, so
they were. Although strangely, they didn't have sheets. It was just a giant comforter.
It was a giant. It was a sheet comforter hybrid.
Yeah.
I've never seen this, and it was surprisingly it was very, very comfortable. By the end of the trip, I had grown accustomed to it. Accustomed to its space.
On the third night, I realized that despite the fact I had been turning down my air conditioner, and after switching it from Celsius to Fahrenheit, I put it down to like 68, and I was wondering why I kept sweating and waking up every single night. There was apparently an on switch that I had not pressed at any point during the trip, and on the last night, I was like, "Oh fucking hell!" So I slept very soundly that last night.
Yeah, I woke up sweaty each morning, but I think that's just because the comforter blanket sheet hybrid thing was just naturally toasty. So, yeah, and I remember waking up at one point and calling you, and you hung up on me. So,
well, I couldn't hear you. I don't know if it was just weirdness with our cell towers because we have American phones and all that. But I remember I was like, Hyle, I'm trying to get some sleep, man. I can't hear you. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
It's like, Chad, I'm here. Chad, I'm here. Chad.
And I just hung up.
Yeah, so that whole first day was just a wash for me. I was just weak and out of sorts, and I walked around Birmingham a bit, but I was just like not feeling it. And we eventually all met up for dinner. Fortunately, we had an itinerary from Emma, so we knew enough that that evening we would be meeting up for dinner at the hotel.
Just us. They wanted to. I think this was a really good plan too, to kind of get everyone who was participating in the trip to have a little social event to kind of get to know you, meet and greet. Despite the fact that some of us already knew each other, there were some newbies to the crowd too. But it was a really good idea to not have anyone from Rare there on that very first arrival night, so that we weren't distracted by anyone or trying to.
It also allowed us to
airs.
recover too. I mean, I wouldn't want anybody from Rare to see me that first day. I was a wreck. It was just miserable, and Unfortunately for me, because I'm the only vegetarian in the group, when the Rare people joined us the next day, fortunately I had Emma, who's also a fellow vegetarian, and she was able to kind of take my hand and help me out. But fortunately for me, as the only vegetarian in the group, that first dinner, which, can we bring up the length of the dinners?
We certainly can, yeah. By the way, but is this going to be a 3-parter? I mean,
no.
Okay,
it's fine. It's fine.
We haven't. We're like an hour into it, and we've not yet met anyone from Rare.
We're building the anticipation.
Okay, all right.
Yellow shirt guy is going to come at any moment.
I was waiting for that one. Yeah. Yeah. So the dinner, it was a very kind of swanky 3-course dinner. Thankfully, there was salt on the table, so we could season it to our liking.
With
but
weird
it was
pop art on the wall.
What's that?
With weird pop art on the wall.
Yeah, like strange, like Victorian era paintings covered in geometric shapes
with like multicolored polka dots. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like Andy Warhol got set loose in the Louvre. But yeah, basically the courses came out it's kind of a plodding pace. I don't know if it was designed that way to facilitate conversation or if they were really backed up, but it was like, we would order a drink and in the first course, or the appetizer really, and then like an hour would go by and we were all like getting hungry again, and here come the mains. So it was like this really strange, like deliberate, like prolonged serving of food that we were all a little confused by it, but hey, we were all talking through the whole thing, so it
I was like,
fine.
why is this so drawn out? It felt like something you'd see on Game of Thrones, where like they were setting us up for like just to execute us all.
Yeah, I think on Game of Thrones, when Joffrey got married to Sansa, there was something like a 70-course meal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but that 70-course meal didn't take a full week.
No. But yeah, so anyway, but all the dinners were really, really long over there, so I don't know if that's just a cultural thing over there. When you go out to dinner, you go out to dinner. It's because in America, we're always just so rushed. It feels like that, dinner is like you keep it brief and then you're out of there. So
well, you expect the restaurant wants to flip the table. Maybe that's
right.
Not such an imperative in the UK.
Well, nobody works for tips over there, so
that's true.
It was also weird that nobody brings you water unless you ask for it.
That's right. The one thing that sustains life for all of us. It's fine. It's just we weren't used to the customs.
See, and this is my first time in the UK, and the thing about the UK is it's so similar to what we have over here, but just enough is slightly askew that it feels like maybe somebody went back in time and stepped on a butterfly, and reality has shifted around you. Mm-hmm. Just like people walk on the sidewalks a different way,
Oh yeah, because everything sort of follows the side of the road that you drive on.
Right. So it's just getting used to those little quirks. It was interesting. As somebody who like is fascinated with the sociological stuff like that, I was really like kind of enthralled by it all. But yeah, as the only vegetarian in the group, I got I guess the stereotypical English welcome with the blandest food imaginable.
You had salt on the table. Quit bitching.
Oh, salt. Oh, salt. What am I, a mountain goat? I'm not going to just lick salt.
I didn't say lick it. Salt brings out flavor. That's what it's there for.
Yeah, well, when there's no flavor to bring out, what are you going to do?
Oh, that's unnecessarily harsh.
No, I'm sure your food was delicious, but I think they just kind of whiffed on all the vegetarian options. There was like a mashed pea risotto or something, and you're like, okay, maybe that's good. No, it just tastes like mashed peas. But
what do you? Hey, that's truth in advertising.
Yeah. It was just like the whole day was just I was just trying to regain some semblance of self, some sort of like I was trying to get my flag planted, and I just couldn't quite come to grips with it all, and the food wasn't helping that first night. So, yeah.
It's one small puke for Hyle, one giant retch for fandom kind.
But that being said, I got a martini that night, so that kind of helped. At least I felt like I could drink again. It wasn't like I was too sick to not put alcohol in my body.
But so let's. I feel like we've
The olives were amazing. The olives were amazing.
The olives were good, and those were comped. Those were just like, hey, have some olives. And Hyle and I were sitting across from each other and just devouring the olive plate.
I know.
No one else really touched theirs.
Well, Chad and I are olive aficionados, apparently, because when we lived together in Los Angeles, we always had jars of olives on hand.
Yes. Oh, yes. We eat them by the slice. Or no, by the wedge, as you heard on our last podcast.
Our sodium intake is grotesque. But anyway, so yeah, I went back and I slept like the dead. I don't think I've slept that well in ages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by the way, we've been snarky and pretty harsh on the experience, or at least Hyle has. Mine was pretty good.
No. I mean, the whole time I was keeping it. I was keeping it in context, like, I'm not paying for any of this. This is amazing. I just needed to get over the vomit hurdle, as it were, and the next day was complete night and day.
Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, hungover from the night before, but it's fine. We're actually interacting with people from Rare today. So I think Sunday, the 21st, was it?
Sunday, the 22nd.
22nd. That's really when the trip itself started, and it's going to be an upward trajectory from here.
Well, yeah, and like the night before, I was like staggering in, and I had to make sure Cameron closed the Hall of Fame voting too. So I was
that's right. We were still running DK Vine from. I remember the first thing that you and I did when we met up on that Saturday was we had to run up to the to my hotel room because you hadn't uploaded the key art yet. Wasn't there some problem with the key art for our podcast that week?
Oh yeah, I forgot to upload it to our shared folder. So you couldn't do like a tweet about the Kongversation. Yeah. Oh yeah, I got to my hotel and I made that's the first thing I did before I passed out. After vomiting, like 15 minutes later, I make the Kongversation live for general audiences. So yeah, I'm still running DK Vine during this time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and so we like Hyle and I are like, hey, what's up? Hey, idiot, you didn't post the thing. All right, let's go deal with that. Like we didn't even really say hello. We're just like, all right, what's next on DK Vine?
It was like, oh yeah, the Funky Kong episode. Yeah, he's a stoner.
Yeah, hilarious joke. Let's go post it and go to sleep.
So the next morning, you and I actually met up just one-on-one, and we walked the streets of Birmingham a bit, and it was the sun was actually out then, so it was kind of nice to see sun.
Actually, wasn't Steve with us, or I thought someone else was with us?
No. At least the two of us. Initially, we were just walking around. We were going to go to the Tesco.
Yep.
But they were closed because apparently Tesco has weird hours. So
yeah, they won't open until 11 a.m.
We're used to the 24-hour supermarkets here, and I'm sure there's 24-hour supermarkets there. It's just on that street in Birmingham that Tesco was being kind of particular. But we went into a couple stores.
Sainsbury's.
Yeah. I was able to get Pepsi and Mountain Dew in the skinny little British bottles, and I think that was the time I regained my sense of self, was drinking sweet Mountain Dew.
Ew.
But it's made with real sugar over there, so it's what we call Mountain Dew Throwback.
Is that really what they call it here?
Yeah, because we're so used to corn syrup that anything made with actual sugar is considered retro and kitsch.
Yeah. In Texas, there's a plant in Dublin that does Dr. Pepper with cane sugar, but they refer to those as Dublin Dr. Peppers, not throwbacks.
Yeah, we've got like the Mexican Cokes here because in Mexico they still make Coke the natural way, but we bring the bottles up and
there is nothing natural about the Coca-Cola bottling process.
So anyway, having caffeine and that kind of carbonation and just something familiar, a taste from back home, I was like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good now. And we all met in the lobby of Malmaison, and basically we were waiting for a couple rare people to show up. We just thought it was going to be a couple rare people showing up, and we were all going to go out to lunch, and then we something had been said about a scavenger hunt. We didn't have any idea about the depth of our day or the experiences that awaited us.
Yeah. In the lead up to the trip, Emma had started a WhatsApp chat room for all 12 of us, or I guess 14 of us really. And in that, she was sort of asking us questions about what we were expecting to see. And at one point she said, so do you guys want to know what's on the itinerary? And we kind of unanimously said, nope. We all want to go into this completely surprised.
Well, we wanted to know enough that we could know when to meet up.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there was an agenda, but we didn't know what the items were, just the times.
Yeah, so we knew we were going to be meeting up with. We knew Emma was coming down to, and people are coming from. Some of them lived in Birmingham, but they must have coming down from Twycross or the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
So we knew Emma was coming down. We knew Cameron Thomas was coming down.
Yeah. The first person to arrive, though, our first point of contact was Bobby, who I think is the big chief of the community team. He was actually staying in the hotel with us, so he came in. He came and said hello to us, checked in, and then I think went up to his room to drop stuff off, and we were just all kind of sitting there in stunned silence, like oh my god, that was someone from Rare.
Yeah, Bobby, apparently he stayed in the hotel with us, and kind of acted as our shepherd, during the time there. And he's actually, should be pointed out, he's an American. So, our first
he comes from Microsoft, in Seattle.
Right. So our first point of contact was just an American. So it was like, oh, big deal. No. It was pretty cool meeting Bobby. I was like, oh, okay, you're actually staying here with us? Oh, awesome. And
what you're a consummate professional, whatever. But where's the accent? Come on.
Yeah, come on. Where's the charm? No,
he's a thoroughly charming guy.
I know. I'm just being a snarky dick. Bobby's awesome. And it was a lot of fun talking with him. And then Cameron Thomas from the community team showed up. And,
I was excited to meet Cameron because he's relatively new to Rare. I think he started last winter, maybe in the autumn, late autumn. But he's also, I think, one of the younger ones on the community team. So it's he's one of the folks that joined Rare kind of as a fan, sort of along the lines of the way Chris Alcock joined back in 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
It's always really cool to see fans make it and get into Rare, and I think Cameron, talking to him over the course of the next few days, that was abundantly clear that he's just a genuine enthusiast for all this stuff. So I was really excited to meet him, and
Cameron's dad is cool too. Apparently, they're telling us stories that he's a driver for celebrities. So,
oh yeah.
So it was cool, hearing anecdotes about their personal lives that I'm now revealing on our stupid podcast.
Yeah, maybe we should be a little more cagey about that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, Bobby told me about all the people he strangled, all the homeless people. Yeah, that was cool.
No, but he said we could talk about that.
Oh, well, he's proud of that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, specifically said that was okay.
He wants to brag about his kill count, right? So, no, as far as I know, nobody at Rare are serial killers. I should get that up front right now. The NDA doesn't say anything about not talking about it, but as far as to my knowledge, if there are, they hid it from us very, very well.
There's nothing in the rulebook that says a dog can't play basketball and that we can't talk about the staff's alleged serial killing.
Why are you making Airbud jokes?
I just love that cliche. There's nothing in the rule book that says a gopher can't play golf. There's nothing in the rule book. It's yes, your rule book doesn't need to explicitly exclude every single potential condition from here until the end of the universe.
To be fair, the gopher in Caddyshack did not play golf. He just did little dances as Bill Murray tried to blow him up.
Oh, I was referring to Air Bud 7. You haven't seen that one with the gopher and the golf? No.
Was that one of the Air Buddies movies where they team up with the gopher who plays golf?
Hyle, the Air Buddy movie with the golf playing gopher is a completely separate sub-series from the Air Bud mainline series.
Oh, well, this will be clarified when we launch our Air Bud Universe site.
Yeah. Oops, all train wreck.
It's Air Bud Leash coming soon. So anyway, So and then I believe Emma is the next to show up. Right, she's third. We were waiting for Emma.
Another one. I mean, obviously by this point, and just through the course of running DKVI in the last few years, we've been in pretty close contact with Emma.
Well, especially the last year. Especially Emma has been our point of contact. And I relieved the burden from Lee Loveday, who we would always go to beforehand.
Well, this is the biggest compliment that I could possibly pay Emma, and she knows what insane Lee Loveday fans we both are. I mean, Lee was it's weird calling him Lee. We've always called him Loveday. Lee was basically like one of the fundamental sense of humor formative influences for the both of us.
I told Emma Lee Loveday is our Hemingway. Essentially, as far
what
as
does that mean?
As far as like in writing influences go, none come higher than Lee Loveday.
Oh, okay. Are you just like a huge Hemingway fan?
No, I'm saying like people say, quote like, oh, Twain, Hemingway, as far as like influences on like, who inspired them as writers. Lee Loveday inspired me, and I'm sure you.
Yeah.
I identify as a writer first and foremost, so Lee taught me that, or Loveday. Yeah, it is weird calling him Lee. I don't like it.
Yeah.
he taught me that you could be informative and write about things that you didn't write about in a funny way.
Yeah. So enough inflating Lee's ego.
His logo. What would his logo be?
I don't.
Nobody even knows what he looks like.
Yeah, he's just a bit. His face was somehow blurred out the entire time we were there. It's really strange that Rare devoted so much technology toward that, but
it's the HoloLens technology. They're just that's what they're developing for the HoloLens. Just a way to hide Lee's identity.
You have to wear the HoloLens when you walk around Rare. And you're trying to look out of the corner of the device, but they've improved the viewing angle specifically for Lee.
Rare always improves it. Yeah, they always find a way to make the hardware work for them.
Right. No, but I was saying all that to say that when Emma joined the community team, like, it took a very short amount of time for us to feel just as comfortable with interacting and talking to her as kind of the voice of Rare as we did with Lee. It was she just like she gets it. She is one of those aforementioned like fans that's in there, and she understands what the Rare ethos and spirit is, and
she does. And I also think she was amused at how carried away we got, especially like I'll get to it later, but when we got to meet Lee, like how excited we were, and she was just kind of rolling her eyes like, really?
Yeah,
it's fucking Lee. Yeah,
she thought that was so ridiculous because it wasn't just us; it was like Amir. Steve,
yeah, that's
Dan.
the thing. Yeah. It was like the whole like community. I read, and Jeff didn't know who he was because he's never done the sleuth work to find out his identity or what he looks like. And
the sleuth work. You mean Google image search?
Yeah. And so he was like, "Who's that?" Or it was like him and Mandy like didn't know who it was, and then it was like it's Lee Loveday, and they were like,
but we're getting ahead. So
we're getting ahead.
So Emma showed up, and all of that, the point I was trying to make was that it was such a thrill to finally get to meet Emma in person after having interacted with her for so long.
Yeah, it was so nice. I just wanted to hug her. I was like, thank you.
No, she ran up and hugged like all of us. She volunteered the hugs.
Yeah,
that's the kind of person that she is.
Yeah, and we thought we were going to have a scavenger hunt with these three people, but first we were going to have a lunch, and. And my stomach was virtually empty after the day before, and
Joe Neat also arrived. And we met him at Rare, or met him at E3 last year.
Briefly met him at E3, I think.
Yeah, it was him, Mike Chapman, and Greg Mayles.
Yeah.
We met them immediately following the Microsoft press event on that Monday morning last year, and they were just kind of setting up, and then they took Captain Bones on a whirlwind tour of the Santa Monica Pier. So
we didn't really hang out with them for the rest of the show, so it was nice to be able to meet them initially. But then, Joe, I forgot. I guess Joe lives in Birmingham, so we didn't expect him to show up, and to have him standing there, I was like,
yeah.
Whoa.
Would you like to give Joe's full address to our listening audience?
Oh yes. What his full address?
No. I was just. Should we be saying he lives in Birmingham? Is that kosher?
No, I mean that's why he was there so quickly. I mean, yeah, it's fine. Like, yeah, they live in the UK. Is that
that's about as specific? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if we should say what planet this is all taking place on. No, I thought you meant his full like his title on the Sea of Thieves team.
No, he's executive producer.
Yes, big shot.
Yeah.
So we all walked next door to what was it, the mailbox? It was like this big shopping complex.
Yeah, it's like the Malmaison is actually inside the mailbox. There was the view that I had out of my room was these kind of glass arches that I thought were like an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Yeah, because I came into your room real quick at one point. I was like, "Oh, is that a swimming pool?" And it must be a swimming pool. It would have been the largest swimming pool I think in the world had it been. But yeah. So
it was just like the back of a bunch of shops that were in the mailbox. This huge kind of mall area.
Upscale shops too, like Versace and whatnot. But we went to it was like a Caribbean chicken place.
Nando's.
That was Nando's?
Yeah, that was Nando's.
Okay, the spicy chicken place.
Yeah, peri peri chicken.
Peri peri chicken. Yeah. So that's a big thing over there. I guess I had my experience with the bland English food, and it's funny. After that, I didn't have traditional English food for the rest of the trip because they took us to Caribbean, they took us Brazilian, Italian, Indian. So yeah,
the Indian place was so good.
Yeah. So this place, luckily they had vegetarian options at every place. So I was able to get something called the Beanie Burger, which was just made out of various like forest seeds and whatnot. Pretty good. But during the course of the lunch, they spring a trap on us, spring a surprise. It turns out they could be the only rare people joining us. There were going to be a lot more.
Yeah. And we had kind of had rumblings that there would be some scavenger hunt component, a GPS scavenger hunt is what it was being called.
Which we didn't know what that meant, like GPS. Did you guys hide things? Or were we looking for Captain Bones in Birmingham? Like what's going on?
Is this some kind of geocaching like themed event? We didn't know, but it was actually a lot of fun the way it unfolded. But to flesh out the teams, it wasn't just going to be us with like a team captain from Rare. They actually got a bunch of people from the community team and from the Sea of Thieves team from Rare in general. I don't know if Louise O'Connor is on the Sea of Thieves team. I know she works incubation. She showed up.
Louise O'Connor. Yeah, here comes Louise O'Connor, like famous Rare employee, worked on Bad Fur Day. You know. And boom, there she is.
And I very awkwardly got up because we were already seated by that point. I missed her at San Diego Comic-Con last year. I've not met Louise, and I'm a huge fan. I was like, I have to go say hi and then sit back down. It was a stupid thing to do, but Steve snapped a photo of it.
Did you ask? Did you say you've been a fan of her since Funky's Fugue?
No, because that was the way I embarrassed myself in front of Robin Beanland last year. I come up with unique ways to embarrass myself in front of all of these people.
Oh, I think we smooth things over with Robin at this point.
No, and I was seated with Shelley Preston and Andy Preston, along with Rodrigo from the contest. We had a little side booth because there was spillover from the table.
It was like bigger than the Last Supper at this point. So Andy Preston and Shelley Preston, they are a married couple, which is really cool, and they're both designers on Sea of Thieves. Shelley is the blonde woman, and Andy is long-haired. He's got a beard. He looks like famous professional wrestler Daniel Bryan to help paint the picture.
That does not help me paint a picture. I don't know who Daniel Bryan is.
Oh, he looks like Andy Preston from off of Rare.
If you that solves it. If you look at the YouTube video where they announced the Sea of Thieves contest, at one point John Vincent is pouring grog into people's mugs and then onto a cell phone. Two of the people holding their mugs out are Andy and Shelley.
Yeah. I was seated with Mike Chapman, who, again, we met briefly last E3, but he's a producer on Sea of Thieves. The coolest guy. It was just so much fun to talk with him.
Oh, my God. I felt so lucky that Mike... so Mike and Emma were both on my eventual scavenger hunt team.
Okay.
And Mike is genuinely, like, the absolute coolest guy. He's going play... I mean, he's already... Is he an EP on the game or a producer? I'm not sure. he might share co-EP title with Joe. I'm not sure. I apologize, Mike, but he's going places. That dude is awesome.
Well, and it's like I want him to be my friend. It's like it's like there's just something about him. There's these people you just gravitate towards, and you're just like, there's something about this person I'm enamored with, and I want. It was like Adam Park had that effect on us last year too. But yeah, Mike is just like the coolest guy. We were talking about. I was sitting with Emma, Mike, and John McFarlane, who is a video dude at Rare. He's in charge of like streaming YouTube videos, right?
He's one of the so he's on the video team. There's another John McMurtry who we met. There was a guy, I think his name was Alex, who Lee pulled me into his editing bay and started grilling me about my favorite Rare video. And thankfully I answered correct.
Yeah.
Did that happen to you too?
It happened to me too. And every video I gave was one he did not work on. So I felt
actually
mortified.
gave a correct answer.
Okay, I was like, the Halloween one where Robin and the band, they're doing all the spooky Rare songs, the Putrid Pumpkins. It's like, I didn't work on that one. It's like, oh.
You've insulted his honor. But there's a really sizable video team at Rare to produce all of the awesome YouTube content and everything for Rare Replay. It was cool to meet John. I don't think John McMurtry was there. I think it was just John McFarlane for the scavenger hunt. Right?
Yeah. But John McFarlane, how do we separate the Johns? Should I just call him John Mick, John
McF and John
Mickey
McM?
Okay. But he's got a thick Scottish accent, really cool, and he's got David Bowie eyes, which really striking. You know, the David Bowie eyes, the two-toned, different colored eyes.
Oh yeah, like brown and hazel. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, and it's like, whoa, Bowie eyes. And if you put enough Ziggy Stardust makeup on him, he would kind of resemble Bowie. So it was really cool. I was sitting with Emma, Mike, and John McF, and like talking with Mike, like fan of original Ghostbusters, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom came up quite extensively.
Really?
Just talking about like the influences that game had on Rare, and I was just like, wow, I found my people. And I was also sitting next to Sebastian's dad, Scott, at the time, and got to know him a little bit better. And just all ate, and I had to get up and floss my teeth, and they said typical American. So that made me. It's fine. I am who I am. And it was. We were also afraid it was going to start raining because we were going outside for the scavenger hunt, and they kept like checking the weather, like, it's supposed to start raining. What are we going to do?
Could push on with the scavenger hunt, as we found.
Apparently, yeah. So we all broke into teams for the scavenger hunt, which was basically.
Brief. Just the anecdote for Shelly and Andy.
I'm sorry.
On top of learning, it was also cool to get to know Rodrigo, because I hadn't traveled with him at all. Or anything
I didn't
like
get
that.
to know him until like the next day or so. But yeah.
Yeah, so we were sitting with Shelly and Andy, and we got to know more about.
But by the way, can I just point out real quick that this is the way it was like for every like lunch and dinner with the Rare people. Like we would all like split off into different groups, and so we all have different times where we got to sit with different people and get to know them. So it was like different times we got kind of. I don't want to say closer because that sounds weird and self-aggrandizing, but it was like. Funny, like because Chad, you and I rarely sat together during the dinners. It was only like the one night we sat together.
Yeah,
it was kind of cool that you went off, had your experiences, I went off and had my experiences, and then we kind of compared notes afterwards. So
and we didn't really do much comparing notes. I'm hearing the Indiana Jones thing for the first time right now.
Well, there's just so much. I wasn't gonna like track you down like 13 hours later and said, Mike Chapman likes Temple of Doom.
Oh my god, he's such a huge Short Round fan. Isn't that cool? Short Round inspired Diddy Kong. Oh my god. No, so we didn't talk too much about pop culture with Andy and Shelly. I learned a bit about there was oftentimes a lot of the, as you first talked to them, like, so how did you get started at Rare? I learned they were on the Viva Pinata testing team, and sort of told the story about how he first saw Shelly when she came in, and he like looked over his monitor. Oh my God, there's a girl here! But
immediately proposed.
Yeah, right on the spot. No, so it was cool getting to know like not only their experience coming up through Rare, but also like as a couple getting to know each other. But then they immediately just started essentially daring us on the level of hot sauce that we would get on our chicken, because they like it spicy. Like there's apparently Nando's has like this extra like nuclear hot option, and I went for the rung below it. But honestly, I wish I had the personal fortitude to go for the extra hot one, because I think I could have taken it unless it was a dramatic leap up. But
see, I didn't want to do anything to upset my delicate stomach. I tend to suffer from IBS, so I was playing it very, very safe.
Yeah, probably for good cause.
I had already vomited the day before. I didn't need to have any other gastric calamity befall me on the scavenger hunt. So
yeah, not in front of John McF.
Chris Marlowe wasn't there, so nobody could have appreciated it.
He would have broken into song at the slightest indication that was warranted. Yeah, he doesn't need much provocation for the Great Mighty Pooh, which is awesome. We would find that out several times later on the trip. So yeah, Andy and Shelly were like such cool, down to earth people, and it was really awesome that we were just talking, and you had the same experience. Clearly, we were just talking to them about whatever, just as human beings. You know, it was just a bunch of really nice people getting to know each other.
And I'm sure like there's a lot of feeling us out. Like, all right, what are their deals? Are they like weird fans, or are they normal people?
There was some of that. I got the sense that we were being very closely observed that first night at E3 last year, but thankfully by this point, I think you and I were more or less known quantities.
Well, yeah, but like Andy and Shelly, we didn't know until that point. You know, I didn't know John McFarlane. You know, we just met Emma in person, Cameron. And you know, so either there was I don't know. Maybe we were being judged during this scavenger hunt, but
I don't think "judge" is the right word. I just think
they should have judged us, because I would be terrified letting 14 weirdos into my studio.
That's a fair point, but I never got the sense of that. It was you know, you when you're meeting someone new, you sort of. You just human beings just naturally approach it with a little bit of hesitation, or you're a little guarded, but almost immediately it was pretty clear on both sides of the fan developer divide that everyone was cool. We're all just kind of normal people that are all universally passionate about this place and these games. So yeah, the guards were dropped immediately.
Right. And you know a lot about Rare guards. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
So we went out for the scavenger hunt, and the clouds just start rolling in like it. And I checked my phone. I was like, "Oh, it's not supposed to start raining for another 90 minutes." Nope. Yep. Nope. Well, we split off into groups. We split off into teams. John McFarlane was the captain of my team, and on my team was Andy and Shelly. So that was cool. I got to spend a little bit of time with them.
Oh, great! I didn't know that. I didn't know the makeup.
And I also had Dan from off of Killer Instinct Central, and I had Rodrigo. So you know. I mostly talked with John during that time, so it was cool to get to know him and kind of, you know, wander around Birmingham. But who was on your team?
So I was with Emma and Mike Chapman, and I was also paired with Olivier, so I got to know more of him over that excursion, and Sebastian and his dad Scott.
Oh, cool. Okay, so I don't know who was on the other team. Sorry, we weren't there.
It was everyone we did not mention.
Yeah, I know Steve was on Joe Neat's team just because they were the team with umbrellas eventually.
Yeah, some of the groups were better prepared than others.
No. It wasn't about being prepared. It was Joe literally bought them all umbrellas when it started to rain.
Oh, well, being from Birmingham, he knew all the best umbrella shops.
So yeah, the scavenger hunt, it was like this app game that you download, and you essentially just walk around. I think they had it's a UK based game, or it might be, but they have them based on different cities in the UK. So it's basically just like a team building exercise. And you walk around. It's like it gives you clues. You have to find particular landmarks. A lot of math involved. A lot of counting and subtracting different years from one another.
Yeah, I got to bust out some Scrum acumen with the Fibonacci sequence, so I was able to apply something from my job.
Hey, those are words. So at one point, though, it just started pouring rain. I mean, just a driving rain, and so we went for cover. Like we were like in second place at that point. We were doing well, but
my group was never doing well at any point.
Yeah,
we were dead last the entire time.
We were leading at one point. That's the frustrating thing. Eventually we did not win because one team outflanked us by staying out longer or something. But and I forget which.
Oh, that's right. They showed up to the pub at the end way late because they were, and we could see where everyone else was on GPS.
Yeah. So it was like, were they like mugged? Were they shivved somewhere? Like, what happened to them?
And there was a canal. Like, our bodies going to wash up? This is horrible.
That's the weird thing. So, and Birmingham apparently has more canals than Venice. So, no. Apparently, that's a fact.
Hyle, I think the people of Venice would like a word.
No, well, I'm not saying like lengthwise, but as far as like the number of, they have more canals.
Yeah,
but
it's a really beautiful city, like architecturally.
Yeah, they're very like old timey, like something out of Harry Potter, like one of the streets off Harry Potter.
I'm sure they love hearing that.
Yeah, I'm an American. So my point of reference are few and far between. It's Rare, Beatles, Doctor Who, James Bond, Harry Potter. That's
probably better out of Harry Potter than out of Monty Python.
Yeah. It's funny. The canals don't have any like barriers or railings next to them because they're a far less litigious society over there. So people can just fall in and drown, and it's their fault. It's weird walking on like ground or like on like stones that are older than our country.
Yeah, exactly. Like the cobble has been weathered over literally centuries. It's amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, but it was pouring rain at one point, and we took shelter in a Starbucks, and that was just a neat little cultural moment where like everything in the bake case is different than our Starbucks. Like instead of cake pops, they have marshmallow sticks.
I'm not familiar enough with American Starbucks to be able to pick out the differences.
All right. So it was just weird. Dan got one of the marshmallow sticks. He went for it. And I got a seltzer water or whatever.
Vegetarian water.
Yes. And we waited, and eventually we were just like, well, we're gonna lose if we just stay in a Starbucks. Let's just venture out in the rain. It was funny.
We huddled for warmth under a tree for hoping that the rain would pass, and we were still probably about 50 meters away from a coffee shop, not a Starbucks, but after about like 4 minutes of the leaves above us gradually getting more and more soaked and then starting to just rain on us as if we were standing out in the open, we said, all right, let's go hole up in the coffee shop for a bit. Yeah. So we kind of did the same thing.
Yeah, it was funny. At one point we were walking underneath a canopy, and it was like water was dripping down, and I believe it was Andy made a reference to Sea of Thieves, and I was like, was I supposed to hear that? At this point, it's like they're dropping their guard just a little bit around us and starting to say things, and I'm like, am I supposed to know that yet?
Oh, there was one that I want to completely preface by saying in no way did this reflect anything that I saw on the trip, but when we were picking team names, what was your team name?
Oh my God, I don't even remember. It was something, I don't know. I don't remember at this point.
Yeah, that's fine. The reason that mine sticks out in memory is because Mike said our team would be called Captain Black Eye's Revenge, and I sort of like looked at him and I paused and I said, I'm not, because at this point we haven't even been to Rare. I'm not going to read anything into that. And I'm just it's okay. I won't read into it. And he just kind of raised his eyebrow and looked back at me, and I'm like, the words came out of your mouth. Don't look at me. But again, no. Captain Black Eye is a character from Rare games. That's not an indication of anything I saw related to Sea of Thieves. I just thought it was. I think he was sort of trolling a bit.
There's a bit of that. There was a bit of that during the whole trip. Stuff we can't even get into the way they trolled us. But
it was pretty. I very happily yelled at one point, we were crossing. One team was like going south on one sidewalk, and we were across the street going north. And they yelled out like, "Hey, what's your team name?" And I very happily yelled out Captain Black Eye's Revenge. So.
Oh yeah, the good Captain Black Eye came up several times during the trip. I may have badgered Greg Mails about it a little bit.
Oh, did you? Oh, hi.
No, I didn't badger him about. In jest, I said, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny? Oh, you should put Captain Black Eye."
That's the best Hyle Russell impression you've ever done.
I know. I've spent years perfecting it, and I'm ready to unleash it on the world. No,
Hyle. Where did Hyle go?
We kept
all I could see is this person, Hyle Russell.
We kept our fanboy tendencies way in check during this trip, but I felt like I'm with Greg Mails for the occasion of playing Sea of Thieves first. I should at least get my 2 cents in. We're pretty sure Captain Black Eye's in the game, but.
Well, we have no way of really knowing that. We're just thinking it's a pirate game, and he's the most famous rare pirate.
And basing it off, his Twitter.
The Twitter incident last E3.
The Twitter incident last E3, yeah. And I'm gonna give Mike Chapman's name for your team as another clue. And I'm just gonna Kevin Callahan it and say do the math. All right.
I won't go that far. I think that they were knowing that we were super fans and would get the reference. I think that might be all it was. There's literally no way to know at this point.
But what is Captain Black Eye's Revenge, Chad?
The name of my scavenger hunt team.
Okay. For the record, we were not told any details about Captain Black Eye in the game, so don't ask us.
Really about like the lore of the game. That was kind of something that wasn't touched upon at any point on the trip.
It was touched upon a little bit, and we're not allowed to say the things we did gleam.
Whatever. Yeah. So, but at any rate, I mean, is the game DKU? We don't know. It's just We really have no way to know at this
talking
point.
with like Joe, and this came up a lot of times. They're going to load it with Easter eggs. They just don't want to get into that yet.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
yeah. Well, we even that's consistent with what Greg said at E3 last year, where he said it wouldn't be a rare game without references.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't worry too much, guys. We're going into this just assuming it's DKU because it's going to be in some capacity.
Well, and similar to Ukulele, without having explicit proof before Royston was inside Doctopus's helmet, we're gonna cover it on DK Vine anyway because it would be insane not to. So I think we're sort of, if necessary, we're gonna turn a blind eye to our character connections just for the purposes of coverage.
Yeah. But again, like Ukulele, I wouldn't worry too much. So anyway, yeah, at one point, John's phone died, and we didn't have access to the app, and we were so close to, winning the scavenger hunt at that point, because it was pouring down rain, and his phone just got drenched because it was out all the time, and it just stopped working. And so I think Andy had to download the app, and we started a second account and tried to, do the scavenger task we hadn't done yet, and then eventually John's phone started working again, and we were able to catch up, and we took the lead at that point. And
you sons of bitches.
Well, we didn't win in the end, but for a brief window, we thought, yeah, we won.
Well, so after the scavenger hunt, I should also mention that one of the fun things about the hunt was that a few of the challenges you could get bonus points for taking certain styles of photos.
Yeah.
There was an awkward family photo, and so it was a really strange cross section. It was me, Scott, Sebastian. Scott and Sebastian are actually in a family. Olivier and Mike Chapman. Emma took the photo for our group, and we're doing an American Gothic kind of thing. And it was just I think another team also did an American Gothic, but
we did a Titanic thing where we formed the ship with each other's bodies, and then somebody did the Kate and Leo.
Yeah.
So
I'm Flying Jack. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It was a really
it was a good way to immediately get intimate with these complete strangers. So
right. If awkwardness was the objective, mission accomplished. No, there was nothing awkward about it, despite the fact that we were doing this stuff. We were just all having a good time. It was cool.
And I think at that point, adrenaline kicks in, and any social oddities that would normally inhibit you just fall by the wayside, and you're just in this weird experience, this surreal adventure and you're all in together. Because it was weird for the Rare people too, I'm sure.
They don't do anything like this.
Right.
Anytime anyone visits Rare, they're usually part of the media. There have been a few exceptions in the past.
They're usually they're usually part of the media, or they're part of Microsoft. So
yeah. And it always happens at Rare headquarters.
Yeah, right. So they have that control. So to come out and kind of get into the wild with us, it was just a good bonding experience, though, because we all got a lot more comfortable around each other, I feel like. And especially splitting off in those teams, it was another good way for people to get to know each other, especially since I don't think our teams really reflected where we sat at lunch. So that was cool.
Yeah,
and I was
totally.
I was kind of glad we weren't on the same team, Chad, just because it got a chance for me and Dan to kind of get to know each other, because we barely got to know each other last E3. So
I also like that, but mostly because I'm not very fond of you.
Oh, well, that comes through every episode, so that's fine. That's no surprise.
Really,
there.
Another podcast, Hyle? Do we have to?
So yeah, and the scavenger hunt wound down, and we all convened at a pub, which was, I guess it was supposed to be a pirate themed pub. I feel like the brand
was it?
The branding was kind of half-assed, but I appreciated the attempt nonetheless. Yeah, we at that point I'm feeling pretty good because my team just quote unquote won the scavenger hunt. So I order the beer that has the highest alcoholic content on the menu.
Yeah, it was an albino squid, I believe.
Yes. I wanted to get something else. They were out, so I got the albino squid. I was trying to get a piratey sounding beer because I'm trying to play it up for Rare, trying to show off a little bit. But also, yeah, Rare, like, they bought our drinks for us, like, the entire time, too, which was, like, surreal. I was like,
and they would even kept coming up to us and saying, "Hey, you want another drink?" And not only that, but like, Joe and Mike were serving. They were just going up to the bar and getting them for us and bringing them to us. Like, you're executive producers on Sea of Thieves. Why are you serving us drinks?
Yeah, it was like DK Vine has caused me to drink in the past, but here is Rare actually serving me alcohol. It was surreal.
And you by the way, you got some solid props for going straight for the highest ABV.
That it was a way to redeem myself after my vomit incident the previous day.
By instigating another round of vomiting?
No, I never vomited again on the trip. I held it together, man, like a pro.
You're right.
So we're sitting there. We're sitting at the pub. Things are getting loose, No,
they weren't.
Yeah, no. When beer is consumed, things start getting loose, and we're all just, enjoying each other's company. And off to the side, in the corner of our eyes, a figure appears.
Yes, yeah, and there were, as you said earlier, there were a few of us who knew who he was. This is, of course, Lee Loveday graced us with his presence.
So I'm looking over, and at first I don't believe it, and I'm like, that's not Lee Loveday. I mean, it looks like Lee Loveday, but it can't be Lee Loveday. Because I'm expecting we're gonna meet Lee at the studio the next day.
Sure.
I did not expect him to truck down to Birmingham. And I noticed, like, the Rare people are looking at me and a couple of us trying to see our reaction.
Yeah.
Because
I was sitting right next to Emma, and so I was just having a conversation with her.
Well, we were sitting across the table from each other. Emma was next to you. And
it's like I'm talking to Emma about community and just kind of a lot of that. Her job basically. Kind of, because I've been interacting with Emma on the Twitter side of things, certainly, and through email for a while. But it's cool to kind of see what it's like on the other side. You get a peek into each other's world a little bit. So that was a really awesome conversation. And then at one point she goes, "Oh, Lee's here," just really casually, and that's when. And you guys had already kind of noticed and were kind of whispering amongst yourselves. And I was like looking up. I said, "Oh my god!" And she just started laughing.
Didn't I point it out to you first though? Because I remember I was like,
okay. You might have done, and then Emma said, "Oh yeah, he's here." So it's all kind of a blur, but yeah, there he was.
Because you got wide-eyed. I remember I was like, Chad, look who's here. And you looked over, and it was just like, I've never seen that look on your face. It was...
And I was really trying really hard this whole trip to like not be starstruck.
Oh, so was I. So was I. And
yeah.
it eventually fell by the wayside completely. But
right. But eventually, over the course of the few days, we got back to a point where we could just talk to Lee Loveday as human beings do.
Well, that was the hardest thing. That was the funniest thing. Like, I was not starstruck with anyone particularly, even like Greg Mails, who we briefly met last E3, but like who I consider to be, just an icon of the industry. And I was not starstruck with him. Lee, I was afraid to talk to. I did not know how to approach him, and it was the weirdest thing. It was like genuine, like awe. And
you know what I think was the best thing about his approach is that we were all those of us who came on the trip were all kind of sitting down in this little circular area. Lee was standing up at sort of the entrance to get into where we were all sitting, but so was Scott, Sebastian's dad. And so immediately Lee and Scott just start talking for a while because Scott is a complete outsider to all of this insanity. So it was really funny that like I feel like that might have helped ease Lee into interacting with with all of us crazy people. Here's someone that's on the trip, but a normal person.
Yeah, I remember because people were like, I remember it's like Mike and some others were like looking at me for my reaction, and I looked over and saw him, and I think the first thing I said was, "Oh, this beer is strong," because I did not believe he was there, and I was like, "What is he doing here? Why did he come down?" I was like almost getting like upset for him that we inconvenienced him and brought him down.
Yeah, like we shouldn't have come. This made him leave his house. What's wrong with us? We're terrible.
So we all we all get up from the pub and head to dinner, and at that point, formally introduce ourselves to Lee. I mean, obviously he knows who we are. He knows of us.
Of course.
But it was still like awkward. We made some awkward small talk with him along the way, but I felt like I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I have no way to talk to the man. So I kept trying to kind of kept my distance. I heard you talking with him a bit more, but
yeah, because at this point we kind of all got up and went toward the restaurant for dinner. This like a churrascaria, a Brazilian steakhouse.
Brazil, yes, and it was that was an experience. We were on our way, and we were all just off in our own little groups. Just at this point, I mean, how many people is it? It's well over 20 people. And we eventually convene at this Brazilian restaurant and sit at this long table. And Craig Duncan shows up, the head of Rare.
Yeah,
and
it was funny because I didn't realize until later on that he was like tweeting about, I've got to go to Birmingham and I'm running late. And then later on, I was like reviewing the tweets and putting it together. Oh, that's when he was coming to our restaurant.
So that was just. I did not expect the head of Rare to show up, and of course it was funny because he sat at the head of the table on one side, and Lee Loveday sat at the head of the table on the other side. So It was kind of just like, that about sums it up as far as like the two heads of Rare as far as the fans are concerned. I was sitting closer to Lee's end, but I sat next to Emma and I don't even remember who else. Maybe Cameron. But I was more focused on the food, just the onslaught of food. Because at a Brazilian restaurant, Brazilian steakhouse, they have a method of serving you where they just bring skewers of meat, and you have a little card that's like stop and go. It's like stop and go station from off of Donkey Kong Country, where the Rock Crocs bring you meat, and you it's up to you to flip the card over and say red light, nope, done.
Yeah. And as a vegetarian, I'm sure it was just as terrifying as Stop and Go Station.
My red light was constantly on. Fortunately, they had a kick-ass buffet with tons of vegetarian options, and it was probably my favorite food during the whole trip. It was delicious. That was just like, all right, this is awesome. It was a complete night and day from the dinner I had the night before, and plus we were surrounded by Rare folk, and how surreal is that?
Yeah, I actually got to sit next to Luis on that dinner.
Oh, really?
And it was cool because like on our end of the table, I was closer to to where like Craig was. Jackie was down there, and she did the contest entry that was this just amazing like digitally painted image of a kraken attacking a pirate ship. It's mind-blowingly good, and we saw some of the concept art for Sea of Thieves, and her work like stacks up against that. She's like professional caliber good.
Oh yeah.
And she had her art book there at the dinner. I think it just happened to be in her bag. And so Louise came to Rare as an animator. So like she and Craig Duncan were like, and I think John McF might have been at our side of the table too. They were just pouring through her artwork and just complimenting all of it, and I was watching Jackie to see her reaction, and it was really, really cool to see like her getting validation from professionals that she admires so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that was like the coolest thing that a lot of us experienced was the whole trip was validating in a way. Especially like for those of us who had been on the fan site side of things for the longest time, it was like all this time we'd been put in didn't go unnoticed by the people at the top,
yeah, right.
And anyway, yeah, it was it was really cool. And I was like sitting like very close to Lee, but the restaurant was so noisy, I still didn't have a chance to talk to him. So I was like, damn it, I'm never going to be able to talk to the man.
This is it. He's disappearing after this.
Well, it's like, it was like, I want to like, what do I even say? Like, this is like a dream come true, being in close proximity to Lee Loveday, and I have nothing to say, nor do I know how to even talk to him as a human being and not as a icon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of like talking to icons, I actually got my Conker impression validated twice by people who were on the Conker team.
Nice.
And I did. Yeah. I was, and it wasn't like I was like, hey, listen to my Conker impression. I want you to. No, it was organic. At that dinner, for the second one was with Chris Marlowe way later, so I'll get to it later. But with Luis, she was talking about how she doesn't know why she did, but for some of the animation sequences with Conker, she animated him as kind of fey, sort of having this lilting tone, and I was like, oh, like that part where he says, "You're a real charmer," and she goes, "Yeah, exactly. That's quite a good Conker, actually." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Oh, thanks. I dabble," is what I said. Well, not saying that like I practice the impression on my commute home every day.
Well, that was the fun fact for you. We all had apparently fun facts about us that the staff passed around to get to know us before the trip even occurred, and yours was you can do killer impressions of several Rare characters.
Yeah, ironically, no Killer Instinct killer impressions.
No, absolutely. Well, I don't know. If you got the full Gore mask from the Nintendo Power Supplies catalog, maybe that would just come naturally then.
Yeah, perhaps. Although the one that I would be most likely to attempt would be Chris Sutherland's announcer, but I think that would just obliterate my vocal cords. I would have a blowout.
Yeah, we're actually recording this just prior to E3, and we don't need a repeat of last year.
Yeah, please, for the love of God, my health is at a decent level right now. I cannot have it dip. No matter how many ultimate combos I might want to announce.
Ultra.
Wasn't there an ultimate combo?
Maybe. Ultra is the one everybody knows.
Okay. Well, yeah. At any rate.
It shows Killer Instinct is not the reason you were there.
Look, Amir and Dan have that perfectly well covered.
Yeah, clearly. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, that whole dinner was kind of a blur. It had been like a whirlwind of a day. And this was just before we were even at Rare. Like, this would have been enough for me to, like, send me home just in a daze, in a stupor. Yeah. But this was just the end of Sunday. We still had Monday and Tuesday at the actual studio itself. What the hell?
Right. We got together after the dinner, and there were a few of us that sort of congregated at the hotel bar just to try and unpack what we had been through. And the universal theme was, can you believe we haven't actually set foot at Rare yet?
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't know if it was just the jet lag or what it was, but it felt the 3 days we actually spent there, like, engaged with Rare people, felt like some of the longest days of my life, but not in a bad way. It was like it should have just gone by in the blink of an eye, and in some sense, I guess it did. But it also
playing Sea of Thieves certainly did.
Yes, yes.
We did like hour-long sessions, which with all the setup and everything, probably about 50 minutes per session. We did a few of those, and that evaporated instantly. It was such a fun game.
We'll get into that.
But everything else, it was strangely dilated somehow.
I think because with the time difference and also us just packing so much in and just the surreal out-of-body nature of everything, every day felt like super long, like double the length, and that really helped too. Like I'm appreciative of that weird cosmic anomaly because we were able to really take our time, and it felt like we were there for way longer than the short amount of time we actually were. So
yeah.
But that night we did meet at the bar and just kind of just I guess compare notes. What did you hear? Well, this is what I heard. Try to see if anybody like let anything slip about Sea of Thieves or whatnot. And then we went back to our rooms. And we all had separate hotel rooms, I should point out. Like, none of us... Well, I mean, I guess Jeff and Mandy were together, and Sebastian and his dad were together. But none of us had to double up.
That was also very nice, and something that I wish will be the case... would have been the case for tomorrow when we congregate in Los Angeles, you and me.
Yep, I know. But unfortunately, Patreon doesn't have as deep... Our Patreon doesn't have the deep pockets that the Microsoft Corporation does. So
yeah, they also run off of Patreon, by the
way. So that was I was really afraid like I wouldn't be able to sleep that night, and fortunately I did. I was like out like a light, and I woke up 6 a.m. or so and sprang right up, and it was only like I think then that it started to dawn on me that holy fuck, we're going to Rare today. We're going to Twycross. And like, it was weird because I don't think it really set in during the entire trip until that morning when I was like in the shower and I was just like, so what am I going to do today? Oh, right. I'm going to Rare.
Right. We should talk about the showers in the hotel room.
Oh, yes, this is very important. I'm doing the dramatic build-up, but let's veer to the left and just talk about the showers. Yeah, the showers were... I liked them in the end. They were very, very efficient, but as an American, I'm used to the faucet being connected to the shower. So you start with the faucet, you turn it on, and then you turn on the shower, and then that water is diverted up to the shower head.
Right.
That's not the case here. They're independent of one another.
Yeah. So like you would step in, you'd expecting the scenario you just described, turn on the tub faucet, get it to the heat level that you would prefer, and then turn on what appears to be the shower head faucet. You step in. By the way, it didn't have like a sliding door that shut. There was only the front half of the shower had a door, and also the whole thing was about a foot off the ground. So it seems like a recipe for concussion.
Wait, you had a shower door?
No, there was no door. It was just like a glass panel that only covered the front half of the shower.
I had a curtain.
Oh, I didn't have a curtain. I had like a half panel. It was so the floor got sopping wet. I had to put down a towel every time. Yeah, very weird.
My floor got sopping wet one of the days. I think that's when the cleaning staff ate my oat bar out of revenge.
It's like, this is your job. Tell them to design a better shower. But
the showers were great. It was great. I got super clean. I was afraid, like, you go to somewhere different and the water consistency is going to be off. Will I be able to get the soap out of my hair? Because I've got thick hair, so it's like that's something.
Kennedy hair.
That's something I have to be concerned about when I go someplace strange. Is the water pressure and the water consistency going to be enough to get the shampoo out of my hair? It was, you could, remove the shower head and just let it, run it over wherever you wanted on your body. It was terrific.
Yeah.
This is getting very erotic, by the way.
Apparently, I'm trying to get us away from that. I wish I had never brought up the showers. My first experience in there was essentially soaking my feet because I thought maybe the drain was clogged, but no, I was just running both the tub faucet and the shower head at the same time for the entire duration of my first shower.
Did you almost scald yourself?
That, huh?
Did you almost scald yourself?
Yeah. Because there's just a minute difference between the temperature from basically tepid to scalding hot. So you have to be very delicate with it. But I only figured out that the faucets were separated when I turned off the tub faucet and the shower kept coming. I was like, oh, that's why it's not draining.
Yeah. So we all convened back in the lobby for what was essentially day two, third day we were all there, and Bobby met us, and who had been staying in the hotel, and we all went out at the appropriate time and got on the bus that Rare sent for us.
Yeah, we all piled in, and it was well, should we cut it off here or get to the gates?
Let's get inside. Let's tease them appropriately. So
okay.
We drove what was it, an hour away to Twycross.
Yeah, about 40 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was funny because like initially like you're like, all right, at least I was happy I was going to be able to see some English countryside without feeling like I was going to lose the contents of my stomach. And so it was nice. Like, ooh, this is nice. And then it's funny the feeling that washes over you when you start to realize you're getting close to Twycross, because you've been to Twycross infamously once, not too Rare, the outer portion of Rare. I've never been, so for me, like, I had no conception of what Twycross actually looked like. I knew it was countryside. I knew there were sheep. I knew there were sheepy things, named Sheepy this.
Sheepy Street, yeah.
Yeah. For more on that, see the Sheepy Shop from Donkey Kong Land 3. That's where they got that name. But
yeah, the most obscure reference in a video game ever.
That game was full of pretty obscure and forced puns, but that one takes the cake.
Was it like the first level in that game, Red Wharf?
Yeah. My favorite is still... they did the Coco Chanel joke, the Coco Channel.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because the fish are called Cocos.
Yeah. That's like only 90s kids. Only like a small.
We need to do a clickbait video for only 90s kids will get these obscure Donkey Kong Land 3 references.
Yeah. I was gonna say only 90s kids would get that reference, but it's only us. It's only us. So. We get to Twycross, and I remember like we saw the sign like welcome to Twycross or whatever, and everybody cheered. And at this point, like anxiety and panic start overcoming me. And the
lead up to that though was sort of the opposite of what you might expect, and I was wondering if the whole time if like Bobby, who was on the bus with us, was getting kind of worried, like why aren't they excited? But we were all just sort of trying to silently process what was happening. We were all being bussed to Rare, and we were all sort of, it seemed like we were going through similar things. No one was really being overtly vocal. We were just like nervous anticipation.
Seeing the church that the haunted church from Mad Monster Mansion was somewhat based off of was just mind blowing for me. I was like, that's the church from Mad Monster Mansion. What? And then you would see like I don't know, like tractor stores and whatnot, and it was just like, this is Twycross. This is it. I mean, not much to see, but they have a McDonald's.
Beautiful fields of rapeseed, regrettably named.
I kept having to ask Bobby. I was like, "Oh, those flowers are beautiful. What are they?" And he said, "Rapeseed." And I was like, "I'm sorry." He said, "Rapeseed."
He's like, "I'm not." I remember.
I'm
this.
sorry.
Yeah,
What?
He goes, "I'm not being crude. That's just what they're called."
And I was like, "Oh, I don't like them as much now."
But they were beautiful, though.
They were beautiful.
It was quintessential English countryside.
I've got pictures of the rapeseed that I will be sharing. But
yeah, I remember there was one field of just the yellow flowers with this, I guess it was like an abandoned barn on a hill it was tremendously picturesque. I think Steve actually brought a real camera as opposed to all of us idiots with our cell phones.
Yeah.
So he has some really good photos of that.
I could hear the audience listening to this right now. It's like a Millhouse watching the Poochie episode of Itchy and Scratchy. When are they gonna get to Rare? Yeah.
Yeah. And then they just start breaking down crying like Millhouse did.
Well, speaking of breaking down and crying, so we get to Watery Road. right?
Yes.
And there are the gates, and it's
there's a fantastic Watery Road anecdote in next week's episode.
Yeah. So we get to the gates, and it's nothing glamorous. They have a gate, and there's like a brick structure with like these iron pieces of like rods or something that kind of
rebar.
Yeah, they form the Rare logo, but it's just vague enough that if you're not looking for it, you could completely overlook it.
Oh yeah, here's how vague it is. When I actually went past Rare with Matt Corna in 2012, we went out and we actually hit the call box because there's these big gates, and we said, "Hey, we're from DK Vine, can we pop in?"
Can we pop in?
we were being super casual. Can we say hi? And they said, "No, of course you need an appointment." But there's nothing indicating that it was Rare, and we thought that was by design. We didn't even notice these pieces of metal making the Rare logo. That's how subtle it is.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
But it also, I think, it announces what place you're at, but it also helps keep them, anonymity. Especially like you don't want like weirdos like us showing up and then trying to break in by walking through the adjoining woods. So it's funny, the gate didn't open at first. And
that's right. Yeah, well, it was open because I guess someone had driven through it, and then it started closing as we pulled up.
Yeah, so I was like, oh yeah, this is probably the way it's going to go down, right? And then like Bobby,
the 14 of us will never be heard from again.
Bobby was going to pop out and use his key card, and then finally the gates opened then, and everybody cheered. And at this point, like, I'm kind of hyperventilating, but I'm like, keep it cool, keep it cool, keep it cool. I'm like, I'm gonna keep it cool. I'm gonna keep it cool. I'm like reinforcing like this mantra that, this is nothing out of the ordinary. This is just a place of business, and you, as a duly elected representative of DK Vine, you're here to observe. Mm-hmm. Fine. So I
was there as a fan, by the way. You were there on the DK Vine ticket. I got in for writing a poem.
Business and pleasure. So driving up, and it's a long, windy road up to the main buildings, but along the way they dot it with the infamous statues, the famous statues of rare characters that we all know and love. These are the original ones from the N64 days, and you had Banjo, you had Conker, and yes, you had vintage dinosaur planet Saber and Crystal.
Yeah, they were riding on the back of a dinosaur with Saber holding his sword up in the air. Characters.
It's so cool they still have that, yeah.
Yeah, one of the characters never showed up in a video game. It's so awesome.
One of the characters is owned by Nintendo, which, makes me wonder, could they get away with using the original version of Crystal?
Oh, yeah, that does raise an interesting question. Well, I guess it's the same question as Tricky the Triceratops.
Yeah.
There are two versions of him, one of which presumably Rare owns, but at any rate, kind of a winding road, and it's dotted with trees all around the way. But at one point, there was a brief break in the trees, and not only did we get a glimpse of Manor Park in the distance, but Horstachio and Fudge Hog were out there like waving at us.
Yeah, now, granted, we had done magic mushrooms beforehand, so it helped.
Those were mandatory.
It helped augment the experience in those particular ways. No, they had two people. We later found out they were part of the utility staff.
So they suffered heat strokes on our behalf, which was very nice
but
of them to do.
It's so cool. Like, even the utility staff is, like, in on the joke. Like, they were having a good time. They were waving.
Or facilities, rather.
Sorry, GoldenEye facility, yeah.
Felicity.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know the correct terminology. I'm sorry, I didn't ask for their business cards. But they were in the piñata costumes, waving, and everybody, like, at that point, like, the cynic in me would have kicked in had it been anything but Rare, and I would have been like, well, I didn't need that. I'm not a child. But I was like, oh my god, it's piñatas.
No, yes, Hyle, we were all children at that moment.
That's what I'm saying. No, I was like, oh my god, it's piñatas. I was clapping, and I look over, and Jeff, who, by the way, Jeff is one of the contest winners, but he was also a member of the DK Vine forum, among other things, part of Rare and Friends. And I look over, and he's got, and I'm sorry, Jeff, but I'm gonna take the brunt of it here in just a second. Tears were streaming down his face, and I was just like, "Wow, that's a intense reaction." Like, I'm glad I'm keeping it together. So we park and we all get off the bus, and oh my God, there's Rare. There are the doors to Rare, and we open the doors, and I see Emma, and I'm not really looking in yet, and
let's let the doors open, and let's call it a show at this point.
Okay,
I think.
okay.
Yeah.
But
the bus has stopped, and we're getting out of the bus.
And the doors open, and a beam of white light engulfs us as we move on into Rare Limited.
I thought you weren't going to let Michelle listen to this.
Lost reference.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.